That was $60 in 2001.
More. Way more.
Yeah, I'm Matt. I have been bouldering for 2 years now. I originally started as a gym climber, but then I started going outdoors more frequently in the last year. So I started climbing with Georgia State Climbing Club. There was a group of people that was really trying to beef up the climbing club, get some really potential outdoor climbers in and competition climbers. What they did was they essentially took me up under their wing. So they noticed I was climbing a little bit harder. They started taking me outside, where I started doing lead climbing, which is with ropes and more equipment than for bouldering. And then I started outdoor bouldering shortly after that. And that really got me motivated to try some really hard outdoor routes. One of the biggest preparations is kind of even before you find a line, or if you found a line, you really want to make it accessible, easy to get to. You want to make sure that you don't have to trundle in the forest for 3 hours trying to find this boulder, and then you got to flatten the area that you're landing on. The cleaning process is pretty intricate, especially with this rock. You basically have to come out here with a brush and just start chipping away at all the really bad stuff that's kind of tempting to stand on, because we've definitely had a few moments where we stood on a foothold and it just breaks straight away. And that can be really important if it's a big handhold that you really have to trust, because if you're up high, you grab something that you don't really know if you can trust, you just end up breaking through it, falling 15 feet straight onto your back. We've come out here with huge wire brushes that we just go up and down the lines with to try to find new holds or clean up the ones that are existing. But for the most part, it's just kind of about coming out here, finding the holds. Once you've found them, you just chalk them up and brush away. I would say the hardest route that I've done is this boulder at Climax called Sit On It. It's basically a one-move extension of another boulder that I set. And you start on 2 extremely bad holds, and you make a full body reach from toe to the tip of your fingers to this really, really difficult seam to get into. It takes a lot of precision, and it probably took me 60 attempts just doing that one move. The biggest thing we try to do is bring out a whole lot of safety equipment. So the biggest thing is new people probably don't have their own crash pads, probably don't have the gear that we used for cleaning all of these boulders. So we come out here, we give them a brush, we give them tripods or crash pads, and we just let them explore on their own, because sometimes people will come out and they'll surprise you. They'll put up their own boulders, and sometimes you're 15 feet above the ground and you don't really know what your exit plan is. And it's a lot scarier if you haven't done it before. I think there's a lot of ego involved in any sport. The biggest thing with climbing is basically just saying that something that you did was easier than the person that graded it officially said it was. It's called sandbagging, and the Southeast is notorious for it. People will go out, they'll immediately find the hardest line that they can and just call it a V2 arbitrarily. I think it's kind of damaging to the sport, which is why I've tried to be fair with all the grades out here, let people grade at what their limit is, and then from there we get more of a consensus based on people's skill level, instead of some dude that's been climbing V16 his whole life trying to climb a V7 or something like that. The grading system outdoors is interesting because it doesn't really cater to a body type. In a commercial gym, you have to make sure that this boulder is accessible for everyone. And if it's not, you could have this grade or this grade, depending on your height. Outdoors, they don't really care about that. It's imagine the tallest person climbing it, or the most fit for the actual climb, climbing it in perfect conditions, climbing it at max strength, best mindset. And that's usually what the grade gets. Basically the hardest you can imagine. This grading scale is exponential, so V0 really anyone could do. It's kind of like climbing up a ladder. And then from there you get to V17s, which only 4 people in the world have done. I think if we get to V20 within the time that it takes me to get to 50 years old, that'd be pretty sick. Took a long time for someone to go from V16 to V17. So, we'll see. I think there's something special about going 30 minutes away in your backyard and really discovering a route. Feels a lot different to go to an already established route not being able to do it because it might not be in your style or there's just some moves that don't fit you properly. When you go outside and you're really trying to look for whether something's possible or not, you're kind of thinking like, okay, I'm not making this for someone else. This is for me. Like, I get to finally put up something that no one really has a say in other than me. And then, some really strong dude comes by afterwards and downgrades your project, but that's part of the fun.